Yeah, so hi everyone for joining my session today on psychology of human relationships. And okay, so basically, um today this is what we're gonna be covering. This is what we're gonna be revising. So, I'm gonna tell you three ways to make someone fall in love with your exam responses. Sounds so cheesy, but okay. Um, that's the point. Okay. So, I think, in my personal opinion, the three secrets to make someone fall in love with your exam responses is first, to of course, to be familiar with the IB Psychology's Holy Bible, aka the Psychology Guide, the syllabus content, and the exam's criteria. So, like, you need to know what will come in the exam, of course, um, and you also need to know what will be assessed, what will come out in the ERQ. So, if you know these, then you would know what's the best way to study it. So, so here comes the second point, which is to not procrastinate. Study as soon as possible and make the most out of your time. Um, don't procrastinate, or at least minimize your procrastination as much as you can. So go study the content. Yeah. Go like understand the theories behind the content, and go read the studies about the studies related to the content, and go ahead and like figure out some evaluations that you can think of related to the theory or and the study the study, or like go do research on your own. Go off. The third one is to go practice, of course, because if you understand something but you don't remember it, you're going to the exam hall and you do not remember your exam content, then what are you going to write during the exam? So you do have to memorize the studies. Go practice. 40 hours. Go memorize the studies. Go practice on writing essays, especially on critical thinking and linking back, because I think this is something that, at least from my experience of reading lots of people's ERQs, this is something that a lot of people struggle in, critical thinking and linking back. And by practicing and writing more essays or reading more essays, um, you will slowly figure out what's like the critical thinking aspect and blinking back. Yeah. So first we're gonna go in I'm gonna skim through this part. I hope that most people here already know about this, but if you don't, we are going to go through it. So first part is the syllabus content. This is something that I immediately took. Like, this is literally word by word from the syllabus. So the assessment is any AO3 question, which is um AOT AOT questions are like words like discuss, evaluate, contrast, these words. Um, and I think to what extent, I forgot. But anyway, I don't remember if to what extent is in it, because it's been a while since I've done my exam. But basically, like, the the more important ones that will come out would be discuss and evaluate, and occasional contrast, which is like that weird word. Um, that weird wording. And it can be combined, those words can be combined with the topic or specific content. So it can be combined with this or it can be combined with this. So some examples in the paper too would be something like evaluate one or more explanations for why relationships change or end. That's a content. I I color labeled it so to make it easier for you. Or something like discuss group dynamics. Yeah. Or discuss one or more factors influencing pro-social behavior, or evaluate one or more studies or theories related to social responsibility. So if you have something like this, it means that you need to um like how do you guys know that in a paper two you need to write an ERQ? Obviously you do. You should know that you're writing an ERQ, and an ERQ needs around two or three studies. That means for each content, you should have like 2 or 3 studies that you're prepared with for all the possible questions that might come up. Um, so for for like the topics, that's probably no problem if you've prepared some stuff for the content, right? Because you're gonna have like around um well, it really depends, like because some of the studies can overlap, like you can reuse the studies as much as you want, as long as it's the same as the topic. But basically, yeah, the most important thing is the content. Prior Prioritize preparing studies for that is related to the content. Yeah, so then you would have no problem with the topic. So the next part, um, more possible combinations of the questions would be that the core approaches, biological approach, cognitive approach, and social cultural approach will be um, linked to these topics. And um, so that means that I'm going to explain that later. So, yeah, that one with the topic and research methods and ethical consideration with the topic. So here's some examples of what I mean by the core approaches with the topics. So they will put out questions such as discuss the social cultural approach to understanding personal relationships, or evaluate the biological and cognitive approach to the study of social responsibility. Yeah, so you're going to need to know if your your content, your theory, your study is related to biological approach or cognitive approach or social cultural approach. Um, and next is research methods, which is like you should know about this, and ethical considerations. You should also know about this. I'm not gonna explain further, so I'm just gonna skip through. Oh, okay. One more thing. Is that there is this exam famous open secret that you should probably know about. So, in paper 2, they will give you all the questions for the options, right? And you get to choose 1 or 2 options depending if you're SL or HL. If you're SL, one question, sorry, if you're SL, one option, if you're HL, 2 options. And if you are, let's say you are doing human relationships, that's probably why you're here, unless if you're not taking psych. Um, so if you are taking human relationships, then you can see 3 questions in that option, and you are going to choose, you can choose 1 question. Well, each question will cover different topics. So if you're trying to save time, you can just study 1 topic for 1 option. So there is, do you still remember the topics before for human relationships? It's personal relationships, group dynamics, and social responsibility. So you can choose to study just one of these if you really want to save time. Just choose whichever you're comfortable with, seriously. There's no easier or harder topic. Just whatever you think is easy, that's like very subjective, seriously. Yeah, just do whatever you think you're comfortable, you prefer more, or maybe you're just like, I really need to cram because I haven't studied at all. Fine. Go check out the helper website and like check the study notes of like other people and see whichever that seems easier for your brain to digest. And make use of your time. Minimize the procrastination. Just go study. Oh, okay. Hold on. Someone just said, over caffeinated just said, can I just add that they could also ask about group dynamics, personal relationship, and then one that applies to all 3. Like, it might not be 1 question per topic. Wait, let me, like, register that into my brain. Wait, so you're saying that the question can um uh-huh. Like one group dynamics, two personal relationships, and three ethical considerations? Oh, how about but the third ethical consideration is going to be about social responsibility, no? Or does it not work? Sorry. Does it not work that way? Yeah, so oh, okay. 'Cause that's, I mean, maybe, yeah, the ethics is going to be about social responsibility. So that's like no problem. You're basically still learning one topic, but you go um in that one topic, you also need to know about the core approaches, the research methods, the ethical considerations. That's like my understanding of how um the questions will be possibly worded. Yeah. I mean I don't know, maybe. Okay. Oh, bye bye. Hi Ray. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. Yep. So, okay, before we move on to our content, do you guys have any more questions? I'm gonna wait for some people to finish typing. Can you share the guide link with us, please? Um, okay. I can. It's. Oh yeah, technically. Okay. Um, sorry. So this is a IB problem, copyright problem thing, but the psychology guide is technically copyrighted. Um, which is so unfortunate because we can't. Yeah, Rule 13 problem, but it's really funny because if you check the psychology the psychology channel in the pinned messages, someone got a link of the psychology guide directly from the IBO website. So that's a so that's technically a legal way of acquiring the subject helper guidelines, right? It's only for psychology though. I don't know for other subjects, but theoretically it should be Rule 13. But this is directly taken from the IBO website, so it's not Rule 13 um if it's from the IBO website, isn't it? Yeah. So enjoy the guide. Okay. Because okay, so generally speaking, the syllabus is like not publicly available, but I don't know what's going on with this one. It's okay, we can enjoy it while it lasts because one day it's gonna be taken away. Okay. Um, if you guys don't have any more questions, then I'm gonna move on to the content. So, okay, maybe I'll give like a little disclaimer, like, because this is a bit, this is me being a little bit impulsive with everything. But I technically did not take psychology of human relationships, but I am familiar with a lot of these studies. No, not a lot of these studies. I'm familiar with a lot of these theories because I'm taking psychology in university. So, um, so like I might not be super familiar with the studies, but I can definitely skim through and read and like try and help out. So, um, like I'm gonna have to say that my knowledge about human relationships in the IB psychology is like not complete. So I won't be able to answer like all your questions, but I'll try my best. If I can answer it, then I will answer it. If I cannot answer it, then I will try my best to figure out the best way to answer you and then get back to you later. Maybe like tomorrow or after I looked into some resources, like after double checking. Yeah, so if I don't know, just gonna say I don't know. Okay? That's how I'm gonna do things here. Okay. Yep. So get ready with me to revise for the psychology exams that I'm not even taking. Okay. All right. So first, sorry, my finger slipped. Okay. So let's wait. Hold on. I forgot to. Okay. This is supposed to be key understandings of human relationships. How can I miss that? I'm gonna. I'm just gonna fix that really quick. That's so embarrassing. Okay. Let's go. Oh, it's loading. Yeah, we saw nothing. Okay, let's continue. So, um, the important thing about human relationships is basically the study of relationships between individuals and groups. Um, Relationships are always just really, really complicated. And there's the relationships between people, there's the relationships between groups. That's a whole other frustration and complication. Um, so that's why we're studying it, because it's interesting. Because it's so complex. And so now we're gonna head into the first topic, which is personal relationships. And personal relationships focuses more on like one-on-one relationships, interpersonal relationships between individuals. So it includes things like romantic, sexual relationships, familial, platonic relationships, etc. Whatever relationship you want. Um, so so in these relationships, why do they exist? What makes us go, oh whoa, to another person, and what makes people like want to interact and have relationships with others? It's attraction, and that's why we're gonna discuss about attraction. Yeah, that's where attraction appear, and maybe that's how personal relationships are formed. So how does attraction happen? Why do they happen? That's an interesting question. We are going to use the core approaches to try and understand attraction. So as we remember, there's the biological approach, biological explanations of attraction, that focuses on the role of hormones and genetics. And there's actually many different ways of explaining why attraction happens. For biological approach, we are going to focus more on evolutionary explanations. For cognitive approach, we are going to focus on similarity attraction hypothesis, and I think I'm gonna also do. I'm gonna do both of them. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know why. Okay, it's fine. I forgot to fix that. And for social explanations of attraction, I'm going to focus on familiarity and mere exposure effect and proximity and social proof. And for social explanations, it's more something to do with someone's beliefs, someone's social identity, and how culture affects everything. Um, so let's go into evolutionary explanations of attraction. And in evolutionary explanations perspective, our behaviors right now, like what we're doing right now, usually tend to have a basis on our distant past. So it's like um there's a there's a reason why our behavior is like this as it is now. This is a reason why we are attracted to other people. There's a reason why we have family. There's a reason why we have friends. And according to evolutionary explanations, it can be explained by our ancestors. It can be explained by natural selection. And specifically sexual selection, intrasexual selection, and intersexual selection. It sounds so um traditional because there's also there's all sorts of attraction nowadays. It's not just the traditional guy and girl thing, but unfortunately, the book is kind of traditional in these perspectives, so we're just gonna have to cover it traditionally. Um, so the first one is sexual selection, which is like best mate exists to produce and protect offspring, and this best mate has some evolutionary explanations or evolutionary cues, like like how guys have to be strong and aggressive looking to be attractive or something. They also have to be kind uh to be a good mate, and girls would need to have like curves or whatever to be fertile. Those kind of weird, those kind of generic stuff. And there's also intrasexual selection, which is like between the same gender, there is competition, right? Because there's this thing like, I don't know if you're a guy or a girl, but let's say if you're a girl, then girls would self-sabotage or something, or um look at girls who are prettier than you and like compare and have some questionable body ideals, and people who are considered attractive are seen as someone who gets the attention of a lot of guys, or maybe for guys it's like being very strong, masculine, very big body can attract a lot of girls. Getting money, getting rich can attract a lot of girls, like that kind of not very healthy mindsets, but unfortunately exists to make you seem like as if you can get the other gender. Um, yeah. And then there's also intersexual selection, which is like to choose the members of sex based on specific characteristics. So it's like, I some people have preferences for certain characteristics because they find it more attractive. For maybe for girls, sometimes it's like, oh, some girls like the bad boys, some girls like the kind guys, some girls like uh the rich guys, some girls like the attractive guys. Yeah, intersexual selection. So for these evolutionary explanations, you can use studies such as BUS 1989. This is the study with mate selection, and there's also Wedekind et al. In 1995. This is the MHC genes and sweat study. There's actually also plenty of other studies. Um, okay, later when I share the PowerPoint with you, you can check out the speaker notes. Like there's a bunch of list of studies and its context. You can use them if you're interested. If you need help with understanding this study in depth, feel free to just ping me in the channel and I'll try my best to help. Yeah. Okay. So next, there's the cognitive determinants of attraction, which is um such as reciprocity. You like those who like us. Who does not like positive affirmation? Who does not like being treated nicely? If people treat you nicely, you're gonna like them back. Um, that's a very normal thing. And there's also familiarity, which is like if you see things repetitively, the more you see it, the more you kind of like it. Um, let's just blame the mere exposure effect. How about the attraction similarity model? So this is like we how people can be attracted to things that we see as similar to us. And this things that we perceive to be similar to us can be anything. It can be like your gen your gender. I mean, maybe for some people it can be your race, it can be your religion, your beliefs, your values, blah blah blah. So many things that can be very attractive for people, and that's very subjective. The next one is the matching hypothesis, which is that there's a tendency for people to find people who match our own attractiveness and social desirability. So, um, apparently, in according to this hypothesis, like some people would look at themselves and think, "Oh, okay, I'm this attractive," or "Oh, I'm this socially desirable, so I guess my mate will be something like that." Or this is very similar to the attraction similarity model. If you notice, these theories are very similar. So, some of the studies that you can use includes Brine in 1961, which is the similar. This is related to the similarity attraction hypothesis, and Walster et al. 1966 is related to the matching hypothesis. Okay, so we're just gonna move on to social origins of attraction. Um, for social origins of attraction, there is this theory by Festinger et al. In 1950s. He proposed that the more we see and interact with people, the more they become friends, the more likely they will become friends, and this can lead to familiarity. And this is related to the cognitive determinants of attraction, where we, see things repetitively, and it will um it will affect us and make us like them more, kind of. And this is, well, according to Festinger's study, it's actually true because apparently you're more likely to become close friends with someone else if you're like you're always sitting beside this person all the time, or if you are um let's say like in class you always sit with this guy beside you, and you're forced to because the teacher assigns your seating positions, then, well, maybe if you're not the bestest friends, you're still good friends. You will still be good friends anyway because you're going to have to tolerate him as the person beside you. And yeah, um, this is very interesting. So next one is familiarity. Um, and familiarity can, sorry, for familiarity, you can use Moreland and Beach study. This is about how um, apparently if certain people appear more often, they will be rated as higher. They will have a higher rating compared to the other people who are strangers, which is interesting. We just like things that are more familiar for us. And this is also related to social proving because um we're more attracted to people who we perceive as more well accepted in society. Um, yeah. So, oh, and finally, there's also Sayong. Sayong is actually related to familiarity too. It's about how the mere exposure effect of some faces can produce a preference for those faces. Which is quite interesting. Mere exposure effect is so powerful. Oh yeah, Fissinger can also explain cognitive determinants of attraction. They are kind of, yeah, these theories are kind of just overlapping with each other, which is um kind of annoying, confusing, but also convenient because that means less studies, maybe for you guys. Mhm. Okay, so I think this is moving on to communication. Um, the role of communication. Yeah, I should have properly labeled these. Oh, go back. So yeah, in the role of communication, there is going to be social penetration theory. There is going to be about we're going to talk about attributional styles, and patterns of accommodation. Because, in relationships, communication is really, really important in order for the relationship to blossom and to be maintained. So this is what we're going to be talking about next. The first one is about social penetration theory. This is about how, as relationship develops, your interpersonal communication is going to be going from shallow and non-intimate, just a casual, hey, what's up, kind of discussions to intimate, um, to maybe like, I don't know, swearing. I don't swear to my friends, but maybe you insult your friends all the time, and that's like normal because that's intimate to you. Um, yeah. So this is your gradual self-disclosure process. Sharing, well, that's not really okay. Insulting your friend is not really self-disclosure, but hey, at least you're gonna accept it, and um, you are going to share more personal information to your friend whom you trust because self-disclosure leads to self-validation. You feel like if you disclose yourself and they accept it, you're going to feel like, oh, I'm accepted for being who I am. And these self-disclosure process takes four stages, which is the first stage is orientation. This is when you are just a stranger with someone else. You're strangers with a friend or with, I'd say with a friend. You're strangers with a friend, and you're just like, hey, hey, how are you? And asking all those like generic questions, like, what's your name? Or wait, yeah, you do have to ask that to a stranger. You can't just um, or and then next, as you disclose more and more things to them, you are going to be exploratory you're going to the exploratory affective stage where you start showing your personality little by little, like to test out the waters. And if you're comfortable with them, you're going to go into the affective stage where you are revealing your full personality to them if you're comfortable with them. And if it goes well, if that self disclosure process goes well, then you will continue to self disclose your own personal things and finally go to the stable stage. This is the layer that will expose the core self. It will expose your own core self. Um, and that's probably when the insult starts popping up. Just joking. And okay, so let's say you self-disclose too much and you feel like, oh no, it's costing me. I'm being threatened because I feel like if I self-disclose, if a person feels like they're disclosing too much information to someone else and feel uncomfortable with that, like, what if that person spreads gossip about me? Then um, one will start to back away from the relationship. That will be the penetration stage. That's when you feel like disclosing your information is too much. Um, giving it's giving you too much threat. Yeah. So that's the social penetration theory by Altman and Taylor, and you can use Sheldon in 2009 study. This is about self-disclosure on Facebook. So they found out that friends like to disclose people who they like because once a friend, like once their participant discloses themselves, they feel like they're more certain of their friend's behavior, and that in return increases their trust for that other friend, and that leads to more self-disclosure. It's a great positive cycle if that friend does not do any backstabbing against the participant. Okay, next is another communication Another role that communication takes involves attributional styles. So this is not exactly communication, I have to tell you, but um, this is related to communication because according to Hyder proposed that people tend to understand behaviors of others by attributing people's behaviors to causes, and that's going to affect how we are going to respond to other people's behavior. That's going to affect how we're going to communicate what we think about other people's behavior. So there's two types of there's two types of attributes, which is the dispositional attribute and situational attribution. Dispositional attribution is when you feel like a person is responsible for their behavior. So like let's say you have a friend who's late to class and you think, "Oh yeah, he's late to class because he's just like that. He's lazy all the time. He's always late." Then that's a dispositional attribution. A situational attribution is when you think, "Oh, that person's late to class. Well, he is indeed late all the time, but maybe it's because he always have something to tend to. He's always really, really busy, and maybe he just had something and his time is just always really pressed, so that's why he's late. It's not his fault. He's just trying to survive and struggle." That's a situational attribution. And attribution of behavior is related to forgiveness and empathy among people. Because in healthy relationships, people tend to have a positive attributional style. What this means is that um, what this means by positive attributional style is that they will see like this both people, hopefully both parties will see positive behavior as a dispositional attribute and negative behavior as a situational attribution. So they will see like a person is, let's say you have another friend, her name is Mary. She's always really kind to you, so you feel like, oh, she's always very kind because that's just her personality. Um then like if you think, yeah, she's very kind because it's her personality, that's just who she is, she's always been like that since birth. Then um and let's say if you think one day she let me think. You One day you hear a rumor saying that um she had a fight with another friend and she suddenly um she suddenly yelled names against that other person. Then you would think, oh, that negative behavior, maybe it's because Mary was really, really, really frustrated and she was also being yelled at against the person. That's why she's being defensive. It's not something that she normally does. It's because of the situation. Then that's a healthy relationship because you will see Mary as like a good person. And I don't know what Mary thinks about you, but at least that's a healthy relationship on your side. And negative, no, not negative, unhealthy relationships is basically um something that's not like this. Yeah. Like unhealthy relationships takes in many forms. So basically anything that's not like this is kind of unhealthy according to this definition, which is um I would say it's a bit weird, but oh wait, okay, before we move on, there's a study you can use. Of course you can always use other studies, but this is the one that I have. You can use Stratton 2003. So Stratton tried to do research in troubled families who did therapy, and they found out that most families who had unhealthy relationships tend to involve families who blame children for causing negative outcomes. So let's say I can give you an example of this. It's kind of like, let's say a family has a child. The child is overweight. Child is overweight, and the child tries to do diets. Like the family encourages the child to eat less, do diet or whatever, and the child keeps on failing in the keeps on failing the diet, and the family blames the child for the failure, which is I don't know what that sounds like for you, but for me, that sounds like a big red flag because you can't just blame a child for failing a diet. They don't know how to do diets because it's obviously gonna be the family who's gonna tell the child to do the diet, but then like you can't just blame a child who's just really clueless and just following your orders to do diet and fail the diet and blame them again and then just blame blame them for everything else or whatever. Yeah, that just does not make any sense. And that's unhealthy, really unhealthy. Yeah. Okay, so next one is the patterns of accommodation. So this is also related to the roles of communication in relationships. And this is proposed by Ruswald and Sembra in 1983. So they propose four main strategies to resolve conflict or disagreement in a relationship. The first one is an active and constructive way, which is voice, to, speak up, to acknowledge dissatisfaction that's going on if there's a conflict, and to actively attempt to improve the situation. Um, Another strategy is an active and constructive wait, and sorry, a destructive and active strategy, which is to acknowledge dissatisfaction and to, but wait, yeah, to, oh my God. Okay, sorry, my brain is just a bit confused. Okay, so yeah, active is to acknowledge dissatisfaction, but they try to work to the end or abuse the relationship, which is, destructive, not very nice. Um, to worsen this situation, basically, even though you know the dissatisfaction is happening. Um, the next strategy is loyalty, which is basically like if there's a dissatisfaction happening, um, it won't be acknowledged, like, and you will just pray and hope that it's going to improve. The last one is neglect, which is like to not necessarily acknowledge the dissatisfaction and passively let the relationship deteriorate. So voice is kind of like, let's say you have a relationship, you have a you have a significant other, and you just feel like they're always there's some pet peeves that you don't like about them. Like let's say you feel like they are always um unable to calm you down when you're anxious because they don't know what to do. Then if you are um if you're the voice strategy type, then you would try to talk with them and tell them, hey, um I know you're not good at calming me down when I'm anxious, but let's talk and figure out how you can best help me when I'm anxious. That's active. Um, the second one is exit, which is like, let's say the same situation, like they they cannot calm you down when you're anxious, even though they tried their best. Then you are like, hey, you're not you're not good at helping me to calm me down, and you just get angrier and angrier, like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you blah, 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 and fight with them versus this situation? Or maybe you use the anxiety to you use their struggles to not be able to calm you down, and like you tell them like you're always you always can't help me when I'm anxious, blah 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 blah. Like so I have to find someone else. like um you use that as an excuse, or like you use that to make them feel guilty about that. That's an active and destructive thing. And next one is loyalty. You know that they're not good at they can't calm you down when you're anxious. So you just don't say anything. And whenever they can't calm you down, you just feel unfulfilled. But you're just quiet. They don't know that s- un- they don't know that you're still anxious. They don't know you're still feeling bad, but you just let it be and hope that they can get the hint someday, but they never get the hint. Um, the next one is neglect. Is basically um like, let's say they can't calm you down when you're anxious, and you just feel less and less satisfied with the situation, and the relationship kind of like slowly disintegrates, because whenever he does that, you just don't do anything. Don't like you show him that you're not satisfied all the time, and he's frustrated, and then you just let it become a huge problem, and yep, cause cause the breakup in at the end of the day. Um, so those are the four patterns of accommodation. And one study that you can use would be Gottman and Krakow study in 1989. Yep. So um, so you have like one study for each theory, and you can probably choose, if the question is on role communication, you can probably choose to like cover two of these theories you're comfortable with, or you can choose to cover all of them if you have time to write as many as these. Good luck. Okay. Um, so the next content is about why relationships end. Wait, I'm trying to like, oh, explanations for why relationships change or end. Okay. Trying to dig out my memory in here because I didn't pinpoint the key contents down. Okay, so for why relationships change or end, explanations for them, you can use five-stage model of relationship breakdown. You can also use Gottman's horsemen of the apocalypse. Um, yep, these two studies. No, not these two studies. These two theories. There's going to be separate studies for each of these two theories. So the first one is the five-stage model of the relationship breakdown, by Rowley and Duck. They believe that this relationship breakdown follows a five stage, which is the intraphysics stage, the dyadic stage, the social phase, and grave dressing phase, and the resurrection phase. So for the it's the intrapsychic phase. It is when a dissatisfaction experience if you have a dissatisfaction with your partner, and that sentiment is not shared together. So like um sorry, like the example that I brought just now, um when you're anxious, your partner can calm you down and you're always dissatisfied with that. um that's a intrapsychic phase. The next is the dyadic phase, when you start to like discuss and talk about the dissatisfaction that you have. You try to talk with the other person, your significant other. It may resolve itself when you talk with your significant partner, but it may also worsen. So this is the worsen version, if the problem worsens version. So if it worsens, you may start to head into the social phase, where you start talking with outsiders. You start like talking with your friends about this problem, like um about your problems in your relationships, and this can start to form alliances in discontent. Like, let's say if your friend is like, "Oh, honey, sweetie, you deserve more than that. You deserve someone who can calm you down when you're anxious." And if you get more support from your social circle and encouragement to break up or something instead of because the communication attempt did not work, then that's going to like um separate you more with from your significant other, and that's going to end up in a breakup. And that's where the grave dressing phase happens, where you prepare breakup stories to maybe to save face, or um maybe your significant other, they would make justifiable arguments or stories to defend the breakup. It's like, I tried my best, but she blah 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 blah, And finally, the resurrection process. After the breakup, you're gonna get hurt, and you're going to have to recover from the breakup and redefine what you expect or what you hope in a relationship. So it's a precious learning process, regardless. And you can use Lefebvre et al. It's about they try to see like observe relationship dissolution in IB. Sorry, not in IB, in Facebook, FB. My brain just short circuited. And apparently in Facebook, they found out that the social stage, the grave dressing, and the resurrection process is demonstrated through people's posts or chat messages. Another study that you can use would be Flora and Second in 2003, which is about relational history and satisfaction. They found out that there is many behavioral, cognitive, and affective experiences that's required for that's required or necessary for a long-lasting relationship. So the next one is about Gottman's four four horsemen of the apocalypse. Um, these two, sorry, these four things aspects cause can cause some apocalypse if they are being expressed to your if it's being expressed in a relationship. The first one is criticism, like the bad kind of criticism, where you attack a partner's character, you critique the person instead of the behavior, you exaggerate the complaints and say, "You're always doing this all the time, you're always late, you never clean, blah 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 blah." The bad kind of criticism. Next one is contempt, where you disrespect your other friend or partner or family. You mock them, you insult them, you don't care about what they say when they are trying to be serious with you. You eye roll, you scoff their statements. Um, or when you're being defensive, when you're like, let's say they try to talk with you and feel like you're doing something wrong, and then you become defensive and you look for excuses. No, it's not my fault. Some someone else's fault. It's because blah 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 blah. Or you don't want to accept responsibility or admit fault and try to reverse blame. Actually, it's because of you. It's not because of me. Or finally, there's also stonewalling, where you withdraw from your interaction, you ignore your partner, you shut down, you um ghost the person, evade conversations by starting other activities. So that can change your end relationships because those are negative behaviors, not very good behaviors. Unfortunately, I have not found any studies related to this in. So I mostly use the IB Psychology Oxford textbook, and I didn't find a lot of things in it. Um, I didn't find any studies related to this, but I can help you find it if you do need it. Just let me know. Okay, so next Oh, okay. Before we get into group dynamics, I just want to check if you guys have any questions. Okay, someone asked, how do we use attributional styles to explain the role of communication? Um, I don't know if my explanation was clear enough, but in order to use at wait, where is it? I'm gonna okay, to use attributional styles to explain the role of communication, um, you can talk about how, the attributional styles can affect how we see behavior and how we talk about how the behavior is like um you don't have to always talk about the behavior towards the person, but you can talk about that person's behavior to other people, right? And um that's important because that's just going to affect how you see the relationship, how you communicate in the relationship. So like that intentional that intention matters in the relationship, how you perceive things in general. Um, how you perceive the other person, what the person is doing, that can affect how you see the relationship and that can affect how you communicate in the relationship. Okay, aren't the attribution styles also called the adaptive and maladaptive attribution styles? Um, okay, I think that is more of the healthy relationships and non-healthy relationship. I think that can be related to the adaptive and maladaptive attribution style. Um, but I can help you double check that because I'm not fully sure of it. Like, I am pretty confident, but I'm not like 100% sure, so gonna double check. I'm gonna note that down. Yeah, but I'm just gonna do it in the IB psychology channel. What time is it? Okay, it's 8. Yeah, I'm gonna pin that. Okay. Okay, we're gonna wait until someone's finished with typing just to check if they also have any more questions. Oh, okay, you got a few Gottman studies. That's great. Okay. Okay, feel free to share with other people if you like. I can, I mean, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's some studies. I just haven't got enough time to work on that because um got a little busy uni life going on at the back of my yeah. This is this is completely impulsive. I normally wouldn't. Oh, okay. It's interesting. Okay. It's okay. We can. Oh, okay. Like studies from Gottman himself. Ooh, okay. Yeah. You guys can Google. I trust that you guys are very brilliant. So we're gonna head into group dynamics. Group dynamics. This is about groups and how they work. But in group dynamics, it's more complicated than you. It can be very complicated in group dynamics because um you know, the things happening in one group and the things that happens between one group and another is complicated. It's not very simple. There. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna cover is about cooperation and competition. Um, Competition is I win, you lose. Um, Competition is simple. You just want to profit for your own group, and that is likely going to cost other groups. One winner, the rest, well, maybe some losers, some also winning. Is that you? Competition? When competition escalates, it's going to become conflict. And I think we're going to talk more about conflict. Another one is cooperation. Cooperation can be I win, you win, or it can also be I lose, you win. That's okay. This is a behavior that benefits another group, or it can also benefit your own group. It can be at a cost of your own group. So there's these two terms, interpersonal cooperation, which is actually just pro-social behavior, and this is related with social responsibility, or there's also intrinsic interpersonal cooperation, which is altruism. I will explain more of that in social responsibility later. So right now, let's go into individual competition and cooperation, because group dynamics is complicated. So we're gonna talk about the in groups, the competition and cooperation in one group. There's a few theories that can explain about this. There's the kin selection theory by Hamilton proposed in 1964. There's the reciprocal altruism theory. There's the empathy altruism model. So for kin selection theory is an evolutionary theory. It's about how organisms tend to behave with altruism because they want to maximize their survival survival so they can bring down their genes, pass down their genes. That includes helping people who are relatives to you, people you're more familiar with, people who you consider family or like a part of the familiar tree or whatever. Um, and this can also mean prioritizing relatives. Yeah, this means just prioritizing relatives than non-relatives. This also means prioritizing younger people than older people because younger people they have more chances of passing down the offspring. Also means prioritizing healthy people over non-healthy people, because healthy people can more likely help you pass down your offsprings to the next generation. The next one is reciprocal altruism theory. This is when one organism helps another, but they do it because they hope that the favor can be returned someday. So it's kind of like egoistic in some way. Um, the next one, okay, the first two is egoistic in some level, to some degree. The last one, the empathy altruism model, it's very interesting because um altruism simply comes from just genuine empathy. You feel empathetic to the other person, you go help them. You don't expect anything out of it. That's the empathy altruism model. Okay, there's also group competition and cooperation. This is so much more complicated because there will be a lot of things going on. Like, let's say there's a few theories that you can cover, such as the realistic conflict theory by Campbell in 1965. This is a theory that says that intergroup conflict happens when the group have opposing goals and compete for scarce resources. And they also believe that groups cooperate when they have superordinate goals. Um, this is covered by Sheriff et al. Study. the robbers cave study, where a bunch of kids they no, a bunch of teenagers they were grouped into groups randomly, but then they ended up becoming opponents, even though there's not really strong intention to become opponent, but they, yeah. Um, and I also remember that the study found out that when the groups were struggling over something big, like they needed to do something together um in order to pass this thing. I remember it was like pushing this thing. Sorry, my memory about this is a bit vague, but I remember it has something to do with that. They will cooperate and become good best buddies. So next one is social identity theory. This is a theory taken from the social cultural approach. It's about how in-group and out-group naturally like kind of gets composed in our minds from social categorization. And this can cause competition or cooperation because you will cooperate more with your in-groups and you will see out-groups as, outsiders. You're gonna kind of like compete with them kind of in this kind of indirect feeling stigma. Yeah. And then you can use um Burton Sholay et al. Study where they found out that competition between groups can increase cooperation within groups. So if you have a competition with an in-group and out-group, then the the in-group in the in-group, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, the the in-group people will work together for a greater goal. Hey, oh, look, that sounds like it's related to realistic conflict theory. Um, okay. Next one is behavioral game theory. So basically, this is mentioned because a lot of the studies in cooperation and group competition tends to use behavioral game theories, such as like the prisoner's dilemma. Well, you need to figure out whether to cooperate or to compete against, not really compete, but like to kind of backstab a stranger. Um, you can use the Drew et al. Oh wait, no, the Drew et al. Is the second. Wait, I'm pretty sure it prepared a study for this. Or is that Potential at all? Oh well, it's okay. Okay, I can help you double check. Just let me know in the group chat if you no. Let me know in the chat if you want me to double check this. Okay, next is biological correlates of intergroup conflict. This is um there's a lot of biological stuff that can relate to intergroup conflict. For example, apparently snorted oxytocin. No, I mean like just putting it on your nose, up against your nose, can increase cooperation within groups and co increase competition in out groups. Because oxytocin is like this um it's this neurotransmitter for trust. Yeah, it's this neurotransmitter. Oh, it's this neurotransmitter and hormones. Yeah, that's why I was like really confused. Like I was trying to think, is it neurotransmitter or hormone? It's both of them. Um, is this thing where it's related to trust, but it's also related to ethnocentrism because it would like favor people you are familiar with, like people who are the same race as you, but then increase this like prejudice against people who are not in your in group. Next is apparently cooperation and competition can be localized in the brain because the study et al. In 2004 found that um, through fMRI scans and when like a bunch of people played some games competitively, they found out that cooperation is related with orbitofrontal cortex and competition is related with the inferior parental context and medial prefrontal cortex. Next is about prejudice and discrimination, a part of the content in the group dynamics. So, um, most prejudices nowadays, they're not very obvious because we have really high standards of going against prejudice. Prejudice is not acceptable nowadays. So, if it's not acceptable, but it still exists. That's kind of weird, right? No, it's not it's not weird, but that's where implicit prejudice comes in. It's because people don't explicitly say, "Hey, you're black." No, they don't do that. They use implicit prejudice to cause discrimination, such as scoring black students stricter than white students because they're black, or putting Asians in gifted mathematical classes just because they're Asian, um, or just a lot of implicit prejudice. Okay, so because of this implicit prejudice, Greenwald et al. Developed measures of implicit association tests, um, because they argued that reaction time for mental representations with stronger associations are faster than the ones than the others. So let's say they would like ask a bunch of people to group male and female photographs with science and liberal arts words. If people group female and liberal arts quicker than female and science, then that means they have this implicit prejudice kind of mindset where females are more suitable for the liberal arts. Um, yeah, so that's why this is linked with stereotypes, discrimination, and can also be linked to realistic conflict theory. Um, some studies that can be used includes the Levinson et al., where implicit attitudes of a race is found to be different with explicit attitudes. So, like, people's explicit attitudes about race is just unfortunately different from their implicit attitudes because they use the implicit association test and found out that some people they are probably more racist implicitly, even though they said that no, I'm not racist. Yeah. So the the prejudice is still there, according to Leviton studies. Another one is Column and Plan. They found out that um, even though implicit prejudice exists, they tried to use Obama as an exposure to see if it can reduce implicit prejudice because Obama is the U.S.'s president, and they found out that yes, exposure to Obama had leads to less implicit prejudice the participants in um than the participants that did not get exposure to Obama. Okay, last not least, we can also use Sevoco et al. Um, they found out that there is a link between the outgroup size and intergroup prejudice because um okay, you see, most of these studies are mostly focused in the US because when you think about immigrants, it's the US. Um, you can associate it with the US. So apparently they found out that in small in places where there is small outgroups like small population of immigrants, if it's seen as a perceived threat, then they will exhibit implicit prejudice against these outgroups. But if there's just way too many immigrants and people in the in group maybe are mostly in contact with the outgroups, like they get into contact with the outgroups really often, they can reverse the perceived threat because they personally know the person. This is also related with stereotypes. And this can weaken the prejudice against these outgroups. Okay, so we're going to move on to the last section of group dynamics which is the origins of conflict and um I think it's origins of conflict and conflict resolution if I remember it correctly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's that one. So origins of conflict can be explained by realistic conflict theory, which is something that we've explained before. It can also be explained by social identity theory, more overlaps, and oh, you can also explain it using the instrumental model of group conflict, which is proposed by SS et al. In 2001. So they found out that perceived intergroup competition comes from two aspects, which is the first one is resource stress. Like if there's scarce resources and or threatened resources, for example, like the pandemic, um, economic crises or whatever, then it can cause intergroup competition. And aside from those kind of stressors, the salience of a potentially competitive outgroup is important. Like, if you think of a more real life example of this, you can compare this to the U.S. and China, like how the China has been emerging as like um has been slowly emerging and saying that they will be outgrowing the US or whatever, and how the US like does not like that because the US is kind of number one right now, even though whatever, it's complicated politics, but that kind of like potentially competitive outgroup can cause a perceived intergroup competition between in-group and out-group. Yeah. So these kind of competitions can lead to negative affective and cognitive responses. Um, like how people, lots of politicians in the US um does not like Chinese politicians. They don't like they see Chinese people as victims in China, but then there's this issue where they see Chinese people in the US as like a negative stigma. These negative affective and cognitive responses, which is bad. Okay, so however, there are some strategies according to this theory, where you can remove the source of competition. You can decrease the competitiveness of the out group. You can also increase competitiveness in the in group. You can also avoid contact with the out group. So decreasing competitiveness of the out group, um, like let's say China becomes less threatening, then US wouldn't be having conflicts with them in the first place. Or maybe let's say make things within the US more competitive. If lot if the US is kind of like busy with their own country, too busy to mind about China, then they're not gonna care about this intergroup competition. Or you can just avoid contact with the outgroup. Don't be in contact with China, then problem solved. No conflict because you're not in contact. Because the contact is what causes conflict. Okay. Next is conflict resolution. So how do you reduce the conflict? Oh, so there's okay. How do you reduce the conflict? Um, you can reduce the conflict you can talk about this theory called the contact hypothesis by Alpert in 1954, where the contact between groups will improve if we do some of these things. We can do uh so Alpert requires four of these requirements in order for contact hypothesis to work, which is to have the groups to get into equal status within the contact. They they also encourage intergroup cooperation, like to make the two groups, out groups and in groups, be dependent of each other. they also um, said that common goals would be great for um, let's say let's have a greater good for the in-group and out-group. Let's have a greater goal. Let's work together for peace or whatever. Um, and that can improve. Yeah, that's one of the ways to improve conflict. And another one is to have the support of authorities, laws, or customs. So if customs are kind of prejudiced, or if the customs do not really support um the peace between the customs do not like authorities, laws, they don't try to put effort in finding a solution to this conflict, that it's not gonna work. Okay. So you can use studies from Pettigrew and Trop. This is a meta-analysis where people did self-reports and they found out that intergroup contact that met all parts conditions significantly reduced intergroup bias, and um, they also found out that conditions are all of four of these conditions are actually unnecessary to reduce intergroup conflict, which is interesting because apparently you don't need all these conditions and you can reduce intergroup conflict. Um, they also said that effects of the intergroup contact generalize across situations. So let's say con contact with the outgroups at work will reduce the prejudice in the neighborhood. Because let's say like you meet someone in work and you personally know you meet an outgroup in work and you personally know them, then next time if you meet another person who is that same outgroup, then you will have less prejudice against them because you already personally know someone who is a part of that outgroup. And this contact with one outgroup can the reduce conflict against secondary outgroups. So they can reduce conflict against people. Um, they can reduce conflict in a sense, like let's say you are in contact with um you're in contact with a black person. So if you know that black person well and you know, oh, they're just another human being, nothing to be racist against, nothing, there shouldn't be any racism against them, then you would also feel more tolerant about Asian people. You will feel more tolerant about the elderly. You will feel more tolerant about most other things. Maybe not as tolerant, but the potential is there. Yeah. The last one is um another study you can use is Brunel and Sachs in 2012. I'm just gonna skim right really quick. I think I'm just gonna skip the explanations of the studies. Okay, yeah. So we're going to probably zoom into social responsibility, but before that, do you guys have any questions, or do you guys need to leave because it's kind of um 5 minutes? Yeah, we're 5 minutes late. Okay. Oh, okay. Alpha has a question. Oh, okay, no questions. It's been clear. Okay. So last one is about social responsibility, which is um where people take action that can benefit other people or society. Um, in this topic, there's gonna be three more content, which is about the bystander effect, pro-social behavior, and promoting pro-social behavior. So first one is the bystander effect. The bystander effect is a theory where, yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's already kind of past the expected timings. that I said. So I'm just gonna try my best to skim through. But if you need to leave, you can leave. Okay, so this is where um this is a theory where apparently more witnesses means less help for the victim. Like if you have more crowds in an accident, more people are just gonna watch or walk by because of the following situations. So, according to Latan, I don't know how to say that name in Darley, I'm so sorry. They suggested five-stop cognitive model of bystander intervention. So the first, wait, yeah, first one is that a person would notice the event. They will interpret the event as emergency, and they would assume personal responsibility, choose a way to help, and then implement the decision. But here's where crowd. This is like, let's say if a bystander sees an accident happen, but this is where the bystanderism happens. Like if there's a bunch of crowds, um, if let's say if there's a bunch of crowds, it's not you alone, you are less likely to act and help because of these three aspects, which is first is the diffusion of responsibility because you see, oh, it's not just you around here, there's many other people. So you're not the only one who's responsible for this situation because someone else is probably already intervening. You already see someone else walking over to help the person out, so you just don't feel as encouraged to help out. Um Another one is evaluation apprehension because you are afraid that you are not qualified to help them, or maybe you're afraid of being judged for being like actively help out because you're gonna stand out. This may vary depending on your culture, so you might just like ignore it or don't do anything. You give a passive reaction to whatever that's happening. Another one is pluralistic ignorance. So this is like when a situation happens, an accident happens beside you, or you're a witness, and you don't know what to do. So you just look at other people and you see, oh, other people, they no reaction. Okay, maybe I should also not react. So you just don't do anything. Um, you can use Lieutenant Darley's two studies in 1968 and 1970s. I'm gonna skip through. Okay, and next is pro-social behavior. So pro-social behavior includes altruism and pro-social behavior. Like in this content, you're gonna learn about this, altruism and pro-social behavior. Altruism is about selfless helping, just help because you want to. No other motivation. You just want to help. You're just that generous. Pro-social behavior is behavior that's intended to benefit others. So it may have some um it may be peer pressure, like a cultural thing. It may be a self-egoistic motivated thing, but it's pro-social behavior. It's benefiting others. Yeah. So, that's why there's two types of pro-social behavior. There's the egoistic pro-social behavior, which can be explained by evolutionary explanations. There's also the altruistic behavior, that which can barely be explained. Like you can't really explain the motivation between you can't really explain the motivation behind someone just helping for the sake of helping. No other reason, just being very moved by it. Yeah. So that's why we have we can use two theories in here. We can use two theories in here. We can use the kin selection theory. We've covered this before. You can use this for the um, egoistic prosocial behavior to explain this part, and you can explain altruistic behavior using the empathy altruism hypothesis. So lots of these are overlapping, so I'm just gonna skip through. Um, Finally, last part, promoting prosocial behavior. So in order to promote prosocial behavior, we can use systems. You can use incentives re- to encourage people to behave socially and for everyone to benefit because getting everyone to benefit from each other. It's a good thing. So you can do this by using these two strategies to reduce the cost of helping and increase the cost of non-helping. And finally, um, you can also use psychological variables. You can like teach people how to do pro-social behaviors. For example, by teaching kids having a special curriculum, and for adults, you can train them to have compassion. And these are the following studies related to promoting pro-social behavior. And that's it. Finally, time for you to go practice and memorize the studies and do critical thinking and linking back. Go practice. Yeah, that's the end of the session. Goodbye. Okay, there's only one person left. And do you do you have any questions? Um, oh, okay, not at all. Okay. Okay, then thank you so much for tuning in into my session. If you have any questions, you can always ask in the psychology channel. Yep, that's where all the questions, the psychology questions go, should head to, because the revision session channel is for revision sessions in itself. And good luck with your exams. Bye.